Good morning, class. How was everyone's weekend? Good. Well, today we will be learning about credible and non-credible sources. We're going to learn about what they are and how to tell the difference between the two of them. Has anybody heard of the words credible, non-credible before? This is where I would just kind of communicate with my students and kind of see what they know. I want to know their prior knowledge on this lesson, if they know what credible or non-credible sources are. And I would also talk to them about whenever they go on a website, what they see. So class, today we will be learning about credible and non-credible sources. We will be watching a video called Spaghetti Tree, and we will figure out if we think that this video is real or fake, if it's credible or non-credible. This will later help us with other tasks that we will be doing to better understand credible and non-credible sources. It is very important to differentiate between credible and non-credible sources, or real or fake sources, because whenever we're doing research, whenever we're trying to find information, whenever we're looking at a website, maybe we're getting ready to learn about something, write a paper, maybe we're trying to figure out some information for someone, we want to know what sources are credible and which ones aren't, because there's a lot of false information out there, especially on the internet. Anyone can make a website, and everyone has their own opinion, and not every website has appropriate information or true information. So we need to know how to find a credible source, and we need to know how to tell a credible source from a non-credible source. We will later talk about that. We will have a fact sheet, graphic organizer, we will do a scavenger hunt. We're going to have a lot of fun with this assignment. So everybody put your thinking caps on. We are going to watch the Spaghetti Tree video, and we are going to learn about credible and non-credible sources. So get ready.
It isn't only in Britain that spring this year has taken everyone by surprise. Here, in the Ticino, on the borders of Switzerland and Italy, the slopes overlooking Lake Lugano have already burst into flower, at least a fortnight earlier than usual. But what, you may ask, has the early and welcome arrival of bees and blossom to do with food? Well, it's simply that the past winter, one of the mildest in living memory, has had its effect in other ways as well. Most important of all, it's resulted in an exceptionally heavy spaghetti crop. The last 2 weeks of March are an anxious time for the spaghetti farmer. There's always the chance of a late frost, which, while not entirely ruining the crop, generally impairs the flavor and makes it difficult for him to obtain top prices in world markets. But now these dangers are over, and the spaghetti harvest goes forward. Spaghetti cultivation here in Switzerland is not, of course, carried out on anything like the tremendous scale of the Italian industry. Many of you, I'm sure, will have seen pictures of the vast spaghetti plantations in the Po Valley. For the Swiss, however, it tends to be more of a family affair. Another reason why this may be a bumper year lies in the virtual disappearance of the spaghetti weevil, the tiny creature whose depredations have caused much concern in the past. After picking, the spaghetti is laid out to dry in the warm alpine sun. Many people are often puzzled by the fact that spaghetti is produced at such uniform length, but this is the result of many years of patient endeavor by plant breeders who've succeeded in producing the perfect spaghetti. And now, the harvest is marked by a traditional meal. Toasts to the new crop are drunk in these boccolinos, and then the waiters enter bearing the ceremonial dish, and it is, of course, spaghetti, picked earlier in the day, dried in the sun, and so brought fresh from garden to table at the very peak of condition. For those who love this dish, there's nothing like real homegrown spaghetti.
This is where I would now talk to my students about the video that we just watched about the spaghetti tree. I would ask my students, okay, class, so what did you think about this video? Do you think that spaghetti truly grows from a tree? I would also ask questions such as, what do we know about spaghetti? And I would basically explain to my students that though this video looks really real, like, it even made me think for a second, okay, wait, spaghetti is not grown from a tree. So to a kid watching a video such as this, it really brings to their attention that you can make anything look real. You have to do your research to figure out if it is or not sometimes. And I would explain that, and we would start truly discussing what credible and non-credible sources are. At this point, I will pass out the graphic organizer and their fact sheets to help them with figuring out if a source is credible or not. This will help them throughout the whole entire lesson, and they can go back to, if they're writing a paper or whatever, to really truly understand, okay, wait, I forget. How do I find a credible source? They're able to look at their graphic organizer and their fact sheet to help them even in future lessons. This is one of the organizers that the students can look at that talks about credible and non-credible sources. Kind of ask them questions. Make sure that they really understand what they are looking for in a credible source. It's just a very good informational sheet that they can look at. This is the original graphic organizer that the students will be using whenever they are within their groups and they have their 2 credible sources and their 1 non-credible source. The students not only, they could use this as a check mark, like, yes, this source does have a .gov, MIL.edu, so on and so forth. It is professional and clean. It is organized. The author is stated. The site contains no typos or errors, so on and so forth. But also they will tell me how this source meets this criteria. They are going to explain the source that they are looking at to me, and they are going to tell me how this source is credible. Sorry for the blurriness, but this is the fact sheet that my students will be referencing from. It's called Fake News. It just asks, does a headline sound realistic? Don't believe everything you read. Check the entire URL. Does it have any substitutions? So on and so forth. Check the author's credentials, etc., etc. This is to just help my students better understand and break down if a source is credible or not. After we talk about the spaghetti tree and whether or not we think it's real and kind of break down the video, and after my students understand that people can make almost everything look real, that no matter what it says, such as the spaghetti tree video, it looked very authentic. We really need to ask ourselves questions, look at our facts that we know about, and really break it down and really determine whether or not this is a credible source, if it's telling us reliable information or not. After we talk about this and discuss this, we will then go into more of the lesson. This is where I will break my students up into predetermined groups. They will have about 10-15 minutes to look through 2 credible sources and 1 non-credible source. They will be using their graphic organizer as a group, as well as their fact sheet, to really look at these 3 sources and determine whether or not they are credible or non-credible, and they will explain why using their sheets. This assignment will help students better understand what credible and non-credible sources are, what they look like, and to actually apply their knowledge on this topic. Students will use their graphic organizers to write down their brief thoughts on each source and provide reasons why they chose the way they did. The teacher will be walking around the entire time, making sure that students participate in discussion and that they are answering questions, asking questions, teachers answering them, and just observing and discussing amongst students to make sure that they fully comprehend what they are doing. And that is the end of my lesson. At the end of my lesson, I will hopefully have taught students how to determine whether or not a source is credible, or rather it's non-credible, fake. They will use this information to learn about plagiarism, which is our next lesson. They need to be able to learn how to find credible sources, and they need to know what plagiarism is to go into my 3rd lesson, which is putting it all together. So that's my lesson.